What are some things to consider when you're looking for a video doorbell? First, how is it powered? Battery versus wired. How about how quickly you could answer someone who pressed your doorbell? Look at that. Call him a phone. AI detection. It's a must for a doorbell. But what if you don't want to pay for a subscription for that? Don't worry. The Tapo D225 video doorbell has you covered. I'm Wanderer 001. Let's get into it. To start things off, Tapo did reach out to me and provide me with the D225 for the purposes of doing a review. However, they do not get to say what the content of this video is like. Let's start things off with just some general specifications of the doorbell itself. It is 6 inches long, 2 inches wide, and just a little over 1 inch in depth. When we come to the front, we have a microphone, and then here we have our lens, and it says Tapo video doorbell lens, and it's letting you know the field of view right there. The lens itself is a 2K resolution, as I mentioned before, 2560 by 1920 aspect ratio, has a sensor size of 1/2.7 CMOS sensor with an aperture of 1.18. You have a horizontal field of view of 170 degrees and a vertical view of 140 degrees. Now that is a very sizable viewing angle for you. Yes, you're going to have a little distortion and have a fisheye look to it. I would rather be able to see my porch and have the corners slightly fisheyed than not be able to see a package that's left on my doorstep. The frames per second that you can expect from video from this are going to be either 15 or 20, depending on how you have it set. Do keep in mind that when you do filming in the dark, that FPS is automatically going to lower itself just a little bit. Coming down, we have two 850 nanometer IR lights, which will let you see up to 33 feet out in classic black and white. Next, we have our ambient light sensor, which will tell the camera when it should go into night vision mode. Moving down, we have a nice, easily depicted button press. That's one of my things with doorbells. I want people to be able to tell this is what they push and this is a lens. Don't push my lens. The doorbell itself can have a color changing ring around the outside here. I have tested it, and while it is a nice feature, it doesn't show up well on camera and does actually need to be kind of darker for people to actually notice it. It's nice, but it's not a selling point. One of the things that this also acts as is the LED for colored night vision. Yes, the sensor in this is large enough to allow for colored night vision as long as you have some level of light coming in, whether that's from street lights or car lights or from this if somebody gets close enough. Now you can set the doorbell button itself to light up when somebody approaches or when somebody presses it. Coming down, we have our slightly curved PIR sensor giving you a 130 degree field of view for the PIR sensor. This is a battery powered camera unless you wire it, but we'll talk about that when we get to the back. The PIR sensor is a heat-based motion sensor. Any battery-powered camera is going to use this as the method of triggering. Having a nice large one with a 130-degree field of view is very useful in picking up cars, people, pets, and packages that might be making their way to your doorstep. If we take a look at the bottom, really there's only one thing down here, and that is a speaker. If we flip things over to the top, that is our lock hole, and we just push a little push pin through there and we can dismount this from our wall plate. On the back, what we're looking at is, well, this is actually the release mechanism for the wall plate, and I will say, this is actually one of the more smoother operations for this style locking mechanism that I've tested in a doorbell camera. Kudos, Tapo. That's a pretty good setup you have. Over here on the right, if we open this little rubberized panel up, there is a micro SD card slot because yes, you can do local storage on this camera. You do not have to rely on the cloud. And while Tapo does offer a subscription service, that subscription service is only for cloud storage and rich notifications for most people. You really don't need it. You can just survive with this SD card. When we're talking about the SD card, you have a maximum of 512 gigs of storage. And if you're using this in its battery mode, you probably don't need that large because it could just roll over. But once we start getting into the power options, you might want to consider maxing that out. Coming down here, we have our USB-C port. This will be how you can charge the internal battery in this doorbell. The battery is a 10,000 milliamp battery, and Tapo says that it will last for 8 months. Now that is very dependent on your location and the amount of fiddling that you do with this, because I was able to kill this battery in under a month doing heavy, and I mean heavy usage. Just keep that in mind if you're using this in its battery operated mode. Charge time, you're looking at about 4.5 hours to charge this up from 10%. And as we move along to our other items on the back, we have our sync and reset, we have our on off, and then we have our setup button right there. And coming all the way down here, we actually have hardwired connecting ports on the back because you can, one, as I've been mentioning, use this as a battery operated camera. Or you can use this as a hardwired camera. The big difference between the Tapo D225 and other battery operated cameras that also can hardwire in is that those other cameras, when you do that, all it does is trickle charge and top off the battery. If you hardwire this Tapo doorbell camera, you will then have access to 24/7 recording. So instead of relying on those heat-based clips that you would get from the PIR sensor, this will give you 24/7 recording. Not only that, you get pre-roll footage. So you get an extra 4 seconds of footage before the actual motion trigger starts recording. What that means is, it is the difference between seeing somebody's face when they run up and take your package or just seeing the back of their head. This to me is an incredible feature, giving you options in how you use and how you place this camera. This is a first for me. I haven't tested anything else that had this type of option. Coming back around to the front, this is a Wi-Fi based camera. It uses 2.4 gigahertz. Yes, you're not going to be using the 5 gigahertz spectrum with this. However, even on 2.4 gigahertz, the 2K video that you get from this is going to be crystal clear and give you no issues. Operating temperature of this is -4 degrees up to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. I've had this running during my later summer months and I've had it in about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. One thing that Tapo did not list on their website or the packaging is the actual IP rating for this camera, but as you might imagine, with that weather stripping and the fact that this is an outdoor doorbell, that yes, it does have an IP rating, and I can say this camera has been rained on a lot. In my neck of the woods, we've been getting a lot of rain recently and flooding and things of that nature. No flooding for me, but lots and lots of rain. So yes, even though they don't list an IP rating, this is perfectly fine. Don't worry, it's not gonna hurt it. The doorbell itself is only part of the system. Because this does not actually need a pre-existing Chime box to work, that means you get a Chime with it. And I'm going to say that Tapo took a minimalistic approach to the actual Chime. It is just shy of 3 inches with a depth of 1 inch and a width of just over 1.5 inches. On the front, you have a very large speaker, an LED status light, and that's really it. Over on the left-hand side, as we're gonna call it, there is a reset button. And then if we come over to this side, we have physical controls for volume as well as the sounds. Yes, you don't have to go into the application to change the audio, either volume or sounds, for this Chime, and I really appreciate that. All that's left is a plug. No extra wires. This just plugs right into your wall. If you're curious, because it does require power, when not in use and just idling, the Chime uses under 5 watts of power and up to 1 watt of power, depending on the ringtone that is used, as well as the volume of that ringtone. Curious to see what sounds you get with this? Let's take a listen. Not only does the D225 work with the included Chime, you can also pair it to things like the Tapo H100 hub. So you can actually have multiple locations with multiple sounds with different sounds in each of the rooms in case this isn't loud enough for you. And let me tell you, this gets pretty loud. So you shouldn't have any issues hearing it. While the Tapo D225 doorbell here does come with a Chime and the doorbell, there's a lot of other things that we get in the box with it. That Tapo hub wasn't one of them, but let me show you what you actually do get with it. Quick start guide. We've got our doorbell Chime, mounting hardware for the doorbell, extension cables for the doorbell itself, wedge mounting plate, standard mounting plate, mounting template, 3M mounting, cushioning, and then 3M mounting, and then a charging cable. As you saw, Majority of what we get in the box with this is mounting solutions. What I'm going to say is Tapo actually requires you to set up the doorbell first, which I do appreciate. Much like with other Tapo devices that I've tested, there are some things in the setup process that I like and some that I don't. Let me show you what setup was like. This is setup of the Tapo Wi-Fi video doorbell D225. Starting off, you're going to come into the Tapo application. If you haven't downloaded it to your phone, you're going to need to do that first. And then we're going to come up to the upper right-hand corner and select the plus sign and then add a device. From here, we're going to select what we're adding. In our case, we're going to add a doorbell, and we have to find the D225, which kind of matches what it looks like. So we're going to select next. We're going to press and hold the on-off button until that starts flashing. So coming here, press and hold and flip it over.
Doorbell on.
And it says doorbell on, and there it is flashing red and green. Might be a little hard to see with my lights, but it is. And we're going to select next. So it wants us to temporarily join this network, so we're going to go do that. I know I've said this in just about every video. Do not show my password in plain text right off the bat, please. I appreciate the hiding there, but don't show it, because the next step, I'm sure, once I select next, which it did, it's showing my password again in plain text. I do not want that to happen. Please stop that.
To Wi-Fi.
Doorbell says connecting to Wi-Fi now. We'll give that a moment to connect. Orange light now.
Wi-Fi connected.
And says Wi-Fi connected. Now it's a white light. You can hear the speaker down there. It's pretty loud. And now we can name it. So we're just going to say that's the name. Where is it located? Front door. Do next. We can select an icon, which they have doorbells in here now. That. And configuration is complete and is ready for use. Sounds good. Here we can try their Tapo Care services. You don't need it, but they do offer a 30-day free trial. I'm going to skip for now because I'm going to see what I can do with all the free stuff first. Okay, I've got it. It's setting up when the firmware for this will update. I always like Tapo. They'll do it on an off cycle when you're not really online doing anything. So I'm going to say, got it. Next, it's walking us through the micro SD card installation. And it is recommending that we insert the micro SD card prior to mounting, and also giving us a notice that the 24/7 recording is only supported when the doorbell is hardwired and always on mode is selected. But we're gonna flip this over, and then right here there is the slot for your charging port and your micro SD card slot. We're gonna throw a micro SD card in here right now so we don't have to worry about that right there, and then we'll cover things back up.
The SD card is not formatted. Please format it according to the app guidelines.
And it's just letting us know that the SD card is not properly formatted, but we're going to say micro SD card is installed, and we'll format that later. And now it's walking you through how we want to set this up. Yes, I want to have the doorbell powered constantly, or no, I'll be using it via battery. If we do it constantly, we're going to be using these ports down here to connect it to our front doorbell. In my case, I will be doing this wirelessly in battery mode. I'm going to select next. Here it's letting us know, should be 4 feet, free of obstacles and moving trees, people, cars. Kind of want this close to your house, sun, and then don't put it actually on your door. So I kind of like that they walk you through that. And here it's walking you through finding the desired location, checking your porch depth, distance, height, and everything. Here it's talking about the mounting wedge, which will have the vertical down, or the horizontal, which will have it like that. Plenty of options and feedback, so looks good. You can either stick it to the wall, or you can use screws. I will be using screws, and then kind of explaining how we're going to do this. I'll walk you through basic installation afterwards, and then affix to your door. You can check the preview, meaning it's going to show you the live feed, and then use a pin to detach your doorbell. So this is kind of the locking position, and then plug a cable into charge, and then congratulations, it's all set up. Now we can actually use this in one of two ways. We can use this with the Chime that came with it, or if you have the Tapo hub, which I have here, you can actually attach it to the hub. I'm going to select I have the Chime, and we need to pair with the Chime. So I want to add a new Chime. So in this case, we have to plug this in, try and bring that into view a little bit. There you go, it's flashing red and green. So we're going to say, yes, it's flashing red and green. Now this one, it's going to try and pair over via Bluetooth, flashing orange, and looks like it found it. Searching for Wi-Fi network, I can select my network, showing password in plain text, which it's going to do again right here. And we're just going to let that talk to the Wi-Fi network. Now it's pairing with the camera. And we're going to check for firmware. All right, so there is update. We're going to do that right now. After the firmware is done, we select sounds good. Again, just like the doorbell itself, when would you like it to check? Gonna say good. But that's how we set up the Tapo D225 doorbell. With setup out of the way, now we have to put this up. We have to install it somewhere. Depending on your installation method, yes, the application will walk you through that. In my case, it was very simple. I was not hardwiring it in because it's a little chunkier than I can fit where my wires for my doorbell are. If you're like me, or in an apartment situation, you can just put the back plate up, measure where your holes go, put the plate up, place the doorbell on the plate, and then click the doorbell into place. It's as simple as that. With hardware and installation out of the way, the make or break for a video doorbell is the application. Detection zones, package detection, two-way talk. These are all things that are handled by the application. Let's take a look. This is the application for the Tapo D225 video doorbell. Here we can see on our main Tapo page under favorites, I have a little widget for it. It will also show up under all devices or camera. Right here we have a quick toggle to enter privacy mode. Selecting that means the camera is in privacy mode now. So if I open that up, camera feed's not actually going to show me anything. I'm going to turn that back on while I finish talking. The icon is changeable. And then down here you see location, front door, and then a small battery percentage letting you know how much battery is left for the camera. If you had this hardwired in, that would show you that it was hardwired in. Selecting the camera itself will open up the feed. We'll just let that roll so that it's waking up. Here you could see the full view of the camera. Up here at the top, we have the name of the camera, its network status, and battery percentage. Here you can see kind of toggling on and off in these corners. That is tagging. I will show you that down there a little later. In fact, we're just going to turn that off so it's not quite as distracting while we're talking. If I tap on the video feed itself, it will give us some options. First being, if I select this, it will allow me to add up to 4 other Tapo cameras in this view and load them up. So from here, I would have to select my other Tapo camera. So I will select that one and say add. And this one I know is on. This one is currently in privacy mode. But if I swipe, I can add another set of 4. And you can add several sets of 4 for viewing in that way. Tapping my primary camera again, I can select the square and that will bring it down to a single view. Right here we have a quick toggle for the 2K video quality, 960 or auto. I like to have it on the maximum I can while testing. So we're just gonna hit that X right there. Next we have auto, and this is for our night mode. So we can have auto switching back and forth between day and night, forced night, and forced day mode all the time. Turn that off. Here, if I select that, we'll make this full screen. Over here we have a camera image. If I select that, what that's going to do is take a still image of whatever the camera happens to see in frame right at this second. We have our video camera right there that is going to record any action that is happening live in the feed for you to download later. Simply tap it to stop it. To the right of that, we have our volume controls. Right here you can see doorbell microphone volume. Now you can crank this all the way up if you wanted to, but muting it and then unmuting it will always put it back to its default, and all of the audio recordings that I was testing were at the microphone's default setting. And then right here we have our talk. So we have mic is on, mic is off, tap to call, and then speaker on and speaker off. If I tap to call, what this is going to do is start a call with the doorbell, and anybody who's outside will hear me talking. Hanging up the phone call will end the conversation. Over here in the corner, we have options for the doorbell microphone volume as well as the speaker volume. And I will say the speaker is rather good with this doorbell. Coming down, we have our talk. This is push to talk, so talking while you hold a button, as opposed to the call conversation where you don't have to hold the button down. And then right here, we have the quick toggles for those settings that we saw before. Privacy mode, you saw me toggle that from the exterior of the application. That will turn it off so that the camera no longer sees anything that's going on. Quick responses, right here, selecting this will allow you to send quick responses through your video doorbell, including the creation of custom quick responses, as you can see here. Selecting the sprocket icon in the upper right hand corner brings me to the doorbell information, which we get to a little later. But right here you could see auto responses off. If I turn that on, it gives me options as to how I would like them to function, but I'll show you that a little later. And here we have edit voice response. Can I edit any of the ones that I've set up already, but I can create a custom. I would press and hold, and that would give me a custom voice response. But let me show you what these actually sound like.
No one can answer the door right now. We are notified you stopped by. Please leave the item by the door. I'll be there in a minute. Sorry, not interested. You are trespassing. Police have been notified.
Hey, you kids, get off my lawn. What are you looking at? Go away. It says no trespassing.
Coming down, we have our light. Selecting this will light up the push button LED. So it doesn't actually have LEDs on it, but rather the button itself will go to its white state and turn itself on for a 5-minute period of time in battery mode. Yes, everything I'm showing you is for the battery mode, but it will make it so that you don't have IR lights, and it will show you who's in front of the camera in color. Tag on and off. You saw me turn that off before. What this will do is tag things like vehicles, pets, as they walk through frame. Right here you can see it's automatically tagging vehicles. The bush is giving it a little trouble right there, but when I do walk in front of this as myself, you can see that it does tag me as a person. And here we've got a vehicle, so you will actually see that it will tag a moving vehicle. Moving on, Tapo Care. This is the paid service that Tapo has for their cameras. The beauty of Tapo products is that you don't actually need the Tapo Care for their video cameras, and Doorbell in particular, to be functional, unlike some competitors. If I open up Tapo Care, it's going to show us, well, there's a bunch of flash sales, but here is your monthly and your yearly subscription. Do note that right now it is saying first year only. What do you get with Tapo Care? 30 days unlimited cloud storage. You get rich notifications, which is the only reason that I would consider it, which is when I swipe down, instead of seeing a thumbnail, I just get it like a notification text. And then smart sort, so classified cloud videos based on more detected events. So there's like filters and things like that, but you don't need Tapo Care in order for the camera to be functional in any way, shape, or form. And then down here, you can see there's a 30-day free trial when you sign up or purchase a new product. You can X that off, and I'll just say, got it, I can always get it later. Just know that everything that I've been showing you is without the Tapo Care. And then right down here at the bottom, this is our playback and downloads area. This is where you can actually see your events, and I'm just going to pause that right now. What I like about Tapo is you can pinch to zoom in on this timeline, and then notice events are color-coded for actions that have happened with them. So that was me kind of pushing the doorbell. There's a vehicle, person, lots of things that you can do. You can, in the upper right-hand corner of any of your video events, adjust the speed, but sadly that only works when it is playing. So you can go down to 1/16 or all the way up to 16 speed. You can turn off the sound from the recording. You can take a snapshot of the recording, much like you could with the live feed. Same thing with the video camera. If I select that, I can record right from this recording what I'm seeing. And if I come over to this event here with the car, if I select the scissor icon, this is one of the great things that Tapo allows you to do, in that here, this is the full length of this clip. Well, maybe I just want the car coming into my driveway. I can adjust the timeline here. So I can make this larger, I can make this smaller, and then once I get the clip to the size that I want, I can download the clip. So that is a very useful feature. Here, this will make the video recording larger. And then down here we have local storage, great thing about Tapo, and then cloud if we had it. We also have a calendar of events right here. Every blue dot indicates something that has happened, and you can move through the calendar like that. To download any of these events, you simply select the 3 dots in the right-hand corner here, and then select download, and that will add this to your downloads area, which, as you can see right now, we're on playback, but up here, this is our downloads, and these are all the things that I've downloaded while I've been testing this. So lots of footage to go through. That is everything that we can do for camera controls for the doorbell. In the upper right-hand corner here, if I select this, these are our actual settings for the doorbell. So there's a lot more that we can do here. Starting off at the top, we have our doorbell name. If I select device information, that's how you can change the name, location, things of that nature. But there's also a lot of sensitive information in there, so I'm not going to show you that. Over here on the left, we have detections. Notice it has a bunch of different pictures. So scrolling down, I have general motion turned off, but I have person detection turned on, pet detection turned on, vehicle turned on, and package detection turned on. The one thing I will say is With vehicle detection, if you are facing a road like I am, you may want to either lower your sensitivity or turn it off completely because, well, I get lots of notifications when I was testing this. If we move up to the top, we have wake up settings. So event detected. So when will it actually start recording? When it detects motion, which is using that PIR sensor, or doorbell press. And then we have our sensitivity. Coming down, since I went all the way down to the bottom really quickly because I was excited about that, we have our detection zones. Notice this is turned on for all of these detection types in one zone. But if I wanted to, I could set one up for each, and they're color coded. Maybe for cars, so if I come over to vehicle, maybe for vehicle, I only care about my neighbor's driveway, my driveway, and the little bit in front of my house. I can save that. Notice that each of them is set for the entire visible space when you first start. So pets, I only care about this part here because that's the only part a pet should be able to get to. And I cut out all that space up there. But you can see, I can add a zone, I can delete a zone, I can clear the zone, or I can save what I'm working on. I'm going to confirm that I'm saving that for my pets. And I'm just going to go back to all. Notice it grays everybody out. And there we go. So that is our detection settings. Over here, we have power options. Right now I'm on battery. So I have show battery status and then show battery percent. Here is where you can select your power supply. So in my case, it's battery or it's hardwired. Do not think that just because you plug in the USB-C, it will allow you to be hardwired. I tried it. It doesn't work. It has to be tapped into actual low voltage. Wake up settings. We showed this before. Event detection, doorbell press, and then sensitivity. Coming down, we have our working mode. Right now I have it on balanced, but you can have high performance, power saving, and custom, and then auto power saving mode. If I select power saving, it gives you information as to what it's going to do. Reduce the recordings. I can do custom, which will allow me to make changes in my custom settings. So here I go. What I want. Retrigger time, record buffer, maximum clip length. That's all the things that you can do if you select custom setting. I keep it in balanced. It gives me just about what I need. If you go up to high performance, the battery might drain itself a little quicker, but it's going to be better for surveillance. Coming down, we have auto privacy mode. I have that currently turned off. If you enable auto privacy mode, it will turn on automatically every time you charge the camera. So that's actually a great feature because you don't want it recording while it's in the house. And then here we have our battery levels. Well, this is over the last 7 days for me for testing. If I drag it out to 30 days, you could see charge, degrade, charge, and I'm degrading it once again. And that's me really thoroughly testing this. If I come down here, we have our battery usage. It's letting you know in a chart, hey, it's using this much. If I come back to the 30 days, you get a 30-day chart for that information as well. Very helpful. And then time of usage on August 19th is 1 hour and 6 minutes. So you can see that's the amount of triggers that I get. And then coming down, we have details, 5 minutes, wake events. Like there's just so much information in here. And I love that. I really do. I like having lots of information. Coming down, we have doorbell. It is currently on. I can select this and we can either turn it on or off. We can lower and raise the volume. And then we have a selection of doorbell rings. Coming back, we have paired. I have it paired to the Chime that came with it, but also to a Smart Hub. And then we have effective time. So I can do this all day during the day, which is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. During the night, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then a custom schedule. So hypothetically, if there's certain times of day that you want the ring to actually ring or not ring, you can do that. And that is a great feature because I enjoy customization. I just wish that they had a snooze button to let me snooze it for a short period of time. Maybe in a firmware update. Coming down, we have video doorbell call, on or off. This is one of the great features that the Tapo D225 has that other doorbells wish they thought of first, in that it brings you right into the conversation mode when you get a notification rather than, hey, somebody's at your door. Open it, see the event, go to the live feed, start the conversation. No, you open your notification and you're right in conversation mode. Like this. Quick response for notification. Look at that. Call on the phone. So I can end the call, do a voice call, or do a quick response right from here. Coming down, we have spoken language. By default, for me, it's in English, but you have lots of choices, as you can see there. Auto response, you could turn that on or off. If you turn on auto response, your response time is 5 seconds, 1 second, all the way up to 30 seconds. And then you can select what you want it to say. So if somebody's loitering at your door, 5 seconds, get off my property, go away. Here we have our anti-theft alarm. When turned on, if somebody takes your doorbell, it's going to make it very obvious that they shouldn't have it and they need to put it back, which looks like this.
I'm gonna put you down. You have been recorded, and the host has been notified. Please return the doorbell immediately.
So, couldn't quite do that one-handed. Coming down, we have another location for our Tapo Care free trial. Next, we have our storage and recordings. If I select this, this is going to show me local recording, great SD card in the camera. Local storage, it's going to tell you the health of your storage. So right here, you can see I'm doing okay on my SD card. Keep in mind, if you have this plugged in to those hot wires, you will be able to have 24/7 recording, not just clips like I have with the battery. And in my case, I have it loop recording because when I get to the end, I want it to go back and record over those previous clips. Keep in mind, if you're doing the 24/7 recording, you also want to make sure that you do loop unless you want to be replacing your SD card. Coming down, we have our clip settings. This I kind of showed you before, where we have retrigger time, recording buffer, and then maximum clip length. If you change any one of these, it will automatically change the camera into custom mode as opposed to balance mode or high performance, whatever you have. You also have recording schedule. Right now I have detection recording and don't record. If I wanted to, I would come up here and we would say, yeah, these things I don't want to record during these times of day. I actually want it recording, so I'm not going to mess with that. And then record sound. If you live in an area where you're not allowed to record somebody's audio, this is how you can come in and turn that off. Moving down, we have our video display. Night mode, we have infrared mode, as you can see here. Classic black and white. We have full color mode, turns on a spotlight to see in color mode. And then we have doorbell mode, which is turn on a spotlight when somebody comes. So this one, as somebody approaches and it recognizes it's a person, it will turn an LED on, which again is that button. Or we have full color mode, which will constantly use the LED light, which will definitely use your battery much faster. And then here we have viewing distance, near, medium, far. The longer viewing distance will reduce battery life. So if you go up there, it's going to really power those IR lights. Coming back, we have video quality. We touched on that in the quick toggle. 2K, 960, or auto, which will switch depending on your bandwidth. Frame rate, not bad, 15 frames a second or up to 20 frames a second. Privacy zones, this is actually very helpful. Hypothetically, over here, this is my neighbor's yard. Maybe I don't necessarily want to see them coming in and out of their house. I respect their privacy. If I select this as a privacy zone, and then select this check mark, this will become a black square. That black square is not visible in recordings, in live feed, and they maintain their privacy. And you can have several privacy zones set up on a single video feed. Coming down, we have our on-screen display information. I like display timestamp. This is the format that the timestamp would be in. You can display text. In this case right now, it's D225. But if you had this in Docking Bay 3 and had several different cameras, you can label them as such. And then I always display the logo because I like to know what camera my video feeds are coming from. Down here we have display tag on or off. So this is speed. Right there you can see. And then if I do this, it puts a live. I like how they show you exactly how it's going to look in your camera feed, to the point where I actually get confused and click on the wrong back button. Coming down, we have our spotlight settings. Selecting this, well, again, it's that button. I have it set to the maximum brightness. LED, I have it on auto, but you can select always off or always on, and then you have color choices. I'm not going to lie, the color choices only show up at night when it's pretty dark. And if you've got the LED spotlight, it automatically defaults it back to white really quickly. I tried taking pictures. They did not come out very well in photo or video. Take my word for it. You get some color options. They're not the greatest. It's a nice feature that they're there, but I wouldn't say that this is the standout reason to get this doorbell. Here you have your network connectivity, privacy mode, enable, disable, tap it right there. Notifications on or off, selecting this, well, active notifications, yep, I want to see that. Rich notifications, need Tapo Care, can't use this without. And then types, you can schedule or have it always like I do, which I do, and you can just tap on and off what you want. Advanced settings, here we have power line frequency, 50 Hertz or 60 Hertz. If you don't know what it is, leave it at its default setting. Voice call mode, we have standard, and then compatibility mode. Compatibility mode will do everything it can to make sure that you have the most stable call quality while using your video camera. Display settings, very similar, hardware acceleration or compatibility mode. Do the best it can to make sure that everything is stable. Diagnostic, on or off right there. I have it off at the moment. You have share device. Do you want to share this device with somebody? Sure. You send them a link. Remember, they need to have their own TP-Link account, and then you can give them general access or administrative access to your doorbell. Smart actions. Well, there is a lot of automation that you can do if you have several other Tapo devices like cameras, doorbell, lights, switches. This is where you would do it. You would press this plus sign and create an automation. When somebody pushes the doorbell, my Tapo lights come on. Great feature if you need that, because you might not hear one of the many placements of the Chime box. Here we have our user guide and then feedback. Firmware, if you want to manually check it, you would select that and it will check for firmware. And then we can either reboot our doorbell or remove our doorbell by selecting those options. Coming back, those are all the settings and options that we have for the Tapo D225 video doorbell. As you saw, there's a lot that you can do for this doorbell in the application, one of which was set it up for voice assistant. The D225 is compatible with both Google Home and Amazon voice assistants. One of the things that I like when using the voice assistant, since I'm working from home now, I have a Echo Show that sits on my office desk. The D225, when the button's pressed, opens up really quick. Let me show you what that's like.
Someone is at the Tapo_doorbell.
Now that we've gotten all the hardware and software out of the way, what's next? That's testing. I want to make sure that it actually does what Tapo says it's supposed to. First and foremost, let's talk about audio. Audio from the doorbell itself, as well as through the application, is crisp and clear, easily understandable, and that speaker down there is remarkably good for the size of it. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a listen.
Tapo doorbell audio test. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, end test. Tapo video doorbell audio test. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, end test.
And one last audio test, just because it's a doorbell. By popular demand. Next, we move on to video. Over there in the corner, I will have a link to the raw video samples from this doorbell camera. Keep in mind what you're going to see here is downscaled for this 1080 video. Starting with our day, it looks very good, sharp colors, good detail, no problems whatsoever, even on faster moving targets. When we start getting into low light and colored night vision, there is some ghosting that is noticeable and artifacting, but still looks pretty good for the sensor size of this doorbell. And keeping in mind that when I was testing it, I was using battery mode and not the powered mode. Night mode, meaning the IR lights are on, there was some ghosting, but even for faster moving targets, it still was good enough that you could identify a person or pet or whatever was walking through frame. I have had other cameras when I've tested them where quicker moving things just started turning into artifacty, ghosty things that you couldn't discern. I did not have the problem with this doorbell. Next, detection speed. For me, this sat where I thought it would for a PIR sensor. I've tested several doorbells with this type of sensor, and I know about where it should pick me up, and it did. If I was using this wired, which I wish, I would be able to use that USB-C port there and get powered options. It would be nice. But if I was using this powered, it would have 24/7 recording and that pre-roll. So what you'll see is the PIR sensor. I'm on 5G and I'm going to come up my driveway and I should get notified right about here because it should know I'm there. That's one doorbell. All right. And there is the other doorbell, kind of right in front of it. Even though there's a lot I like about this video doorbell, as with anything, there are a few cons that I want you to be aware of. First, there's no snooze on the detection. It's either on or off. There's one manufacturer who has that snooze button, which I really love for their cameras, and I wish others would adopt that as well. As I mentioned before, the USB-C port on the back here does not actually power the camera as if it was hardwired in. I wish that Tapo would let you do that. Maybe they'll change that in a firmware update in the future. Time will tell. In the app, when I was charging, I had to open up the camera in order to see the battery percentage. All I saw when I first opened things up is a green and it's charging, not the percent charge or percent left to charge. I wish, right when I opened the Tapo app, that I could see that without having to open up the camera. I will admit though, the Doorbell did send me a notification when it was done charging. So while I do appreciate that, I'm one of those people who likes to monitor the progress. Again, firmware update perhaps. While I did say that I was able to kill this battery in under a month, that does mean if you live on a busy road like I do, you might have to do some fine tuning of the sensitivity of the detection or what you're detecting. I put mine all the way up to max because that's what I like to do to stress test. For you, you're gonna wanna dial that in, and that might take a little time. It's not a super big con, which is why it's at the end, but again, a data point that I want you to be aware of while you're thinking about this camera. Overall, this Doorbell is everything that other companies' Pro video doorbell wishes it was. No need for a subscription to access AI detection, and its versatility in both how you install it and power it make this a video doorbell that should be on the top of your list if you're looking for a solid doorbell camera from a well-established manufacturer. Because of that, I can strongly recommend the Tapo D225. If this sounds like the video doorbell you've been looking for, I will have a link where you can pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making a comprehensive video like this, make sure to hit that like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure if this is the right video doorbell for you? On screen now, you'll see 2 other video doorbell reviews that I've done in the past to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.